Hey everyone, I'm Amethescent, and today I will be redesigning some Eeveelutions and designing one new one. This may or may not become a whole series where I redesign all the Eeveelutions and design new ones for every type that doesn't already have one. For this, I decided to go from my favorite Eeveelution to my least favorite. But don't get me wrong, I love them all. I really love the concept of Eevee and its Eeveelutions, and a lot of the designs are among my top favorite Pokemon ever. I just thought it would be fun to reimagine them, and felt this was a good way to choose what order I do them in. So the first Eeveelution I decided to redesign is Glaceon. Glaceon is my favorite because it's an Ice-type Pokemon, and because I just really like how it looks. For as long as I can remember, I have always liked the idea of ice powers, and that's always my preference if given a choice between that and any other powers. But there are two problems with that in Pokemon. First, the ice types we do have tend not to be very good. From my 5 seconds of research, a lot of ice types tend to be built more on the defensive side than the offensive. My playstyle has always been more offensive. Also, a lot of the ice types we do have are not to my tastes. Most either don't really look like ice types or are all big and bulky. I prefer the beautiful, cute, graceful, or cool looking Pokemon. Glaceon fits that to a T. Not to mention it's an Eeveelution. That's always a plus. One thing I wanted to do with my redesign is make Glaceon look more like an ice type, as it doesn't really look like one currently. Looking back, that was more achieved in the coloring than the drawing. I think the constraints I put on myself are partially to blame. I still wanted my version to look like a Glaceon, and Glaceon kind of has this diamond theme to it, so I kept to that. Another thing that's iconic to Glaceon's design is this little crown ear thing. I'm not really sure what it is, but I do know that it's meant to resemble a snow hat. It just may look a bit off to some people. So for my design, I combined the ears with the hat thing. One thing about the Eeveelutions is that they all have very similar ear shapes. Maybe that's to keep them on brand, but I feel like there's so much personality you can infuse into them, considering they tend to be rather big. None of the Eeveelutions have droopy ears, which I find to be a shame, so I'm glad I added them onto my Glaceon's design. I gave the tail a little more personality by adding a point to one side of it, as well as added these crystals all around its body. In Glaceon's bio, it talks about how it can freeze its fur into needle-sharp icicles, so I guess this is like a more physical manifestation of that. I kept the diamond designs on its paws, tail, and ears, and was practically done with the drawing portion. Next were the colors, and at first I just used Glaceon's original colors. But like I hinted at earlier, Glaceon's colors aren't very icy. So I adjusted and played around with them until I found something that I liked. And with that, my version of Glaceon was done, and it was time to move on to the next redesign, Sylveon. Sylveon is my second favorite Eeveelution, but it used to be my first. Honestly, Sylveon's design is the best Eeveelution design out of all of them, at least in my opinion. So I was unconfident that I would be able to make something better, but I would definitely try. When I first saw Sylveon introduced in XY, my jaw dropped. I was immediately obsessed, and I especially loved the concept of it evolving that way because of high friendship and a strong bond with its trainer. Absolutely beautiful. But of course, Glaceon took back my love, rendering Sylveon to be my second favorite. Aside from the whole evolving from friendship thing, another notable thing about Sylveon is its ribbon-like feelers. These feelers are manipulated like limbs and emit a soothing aura. They can be used to attack, defend, and even hold their owner's wrist. So if there was one thing I couldn't remove from Sylveon's design, it was the ribbon feelers. The initial pose idea I had for Sylveon looked a bit too much like Vaporeon's pose, so I adjusted it a little bit. The face was the first thing I worked on, and I went for a very soft look. Sylveon is a fairy type, which is often seen as the good type, and fairy types tend to look a lot like fairies. But fairies tend to be bipedal humanoids, which is not what Sylveon is at all. So I had to go a different route. Making a design that looks very soft, round, and friendly seemed like the best course of action. So I gave it smaller, rounder ears and a tuft of curly fur on its head. Leaning more into the fairy aspect, I added these little fairy wing-looking tufts of fur that come off of its paws. And for the tail, I of course made it fluffy, but I also tried to give it a vague heart shape. Keeping with the theme of hearts, I replaced the bows that the original Sylveon has with hearts, added another one to its body, and made the ends of its ribbons round like the top of a heart. Hearts feel fitting because of the fairy typing and because of Sylveon's connection with friendship. Also, there are a decent amount of fairy type moves that have to do with love in some way or another. Alluring Voice, Charm, and Draining Kiss are just a few. For the colors, I used the exact same color scheme because I already think they fit pretty well. I just applied them in a different way. The original Sylveon already has a lot of white, but I ended up giving my version even more white, with pink and blue being the accents. And voila, my Sylveon was done. Finally, we have the completely new design. For this, I decided to design a ghost type Eeveelution. It's hard to choose my favorite out of the types that don't currently have an Eeveelution, but a ghost type felt like it would be a good choice. I do like creepy things, which ghost types tend to be. Not too creepy though. Now, I wasn't exactly sure what to do with this one, and I'm not perfectly happy with the result, but I still think it looks okay. My idea for the lore of this Eeveelution is that it evolves this way by dying. Now, I know that sounds bad, but if you know anything about ghost-type Pokemon lore, you'll know that that's pretty on par. A lot of ghost types are dead Pokemon or people, but for my ghost-type Eeveelution, it specifically has to die in battle while protecting something. Usually, this is its trainer, but it could also be any other thing or person that it cares a lot about. This Eeveelution is also pretty mischievous and likes to pull pranks, probably to keep its loved ones from being too sad about it being dead. Speaking of ghost types that are technically dead, does that mean that they're immortal and can't die? If so, how do people battle and capture ghost types? Maybe I shouldn't think about it too deeply. Perhaps it's just anime and game logic. Anyway, I put it into a playbow pose due to its playful nature and referenced Flareon for help. Last time I tried drawing a playbow for a Pokemon was about a year ago, and it was really hard. Glaceon is in a very similar pose to what I was looking for, so it was a good drawing to reference. The theme for this design is droopiness and wispiness. I added droops and wisps all around the design, from the ears to the tail to its collar. Like I said, I wasn't really sure what to do, and I felt that wisps were very ghostly. Plus, I really like how the tail looks like a sort of apparition. But even with all of that, I still wanted some kind of transparency to the design. And for that, I referenced Spectrier, specifically its hooves. I basically took that concept and applied it to my design. For the colors, I picked purple and pink. Purple because that's a very common color used to depict ghost types. Pink because it can kind of look like a lighter purple. Its body mostly consists of a dark purple that fades to a bright pink, which I think looks pretty cool. Then I used pink for the rest of the details, like the wisps. I also forgot to mention this cape thing I added. I'm unsure how I feel about it. It's supposed to be more droopy fur, but it just looks like a cape. It makes it look kind of regal. Then for the eyes, I did the classic black whites and white iris. And that's all. I decided to name this final ghost type Eeveelution Fanteon. But with that, those are all my designs for this video. Here they are again. What do you think, and which one is your favorite? Personally, I really like Sylveon. I think I really nailed the look, but does it look better than the actual Sylveon? I don't know. Probably not. These designs were pretty fun to make. I love Eevee and all of its Eeveelutions, and I'm quite tired of waiting for a new one to come. So I decided to take matters into my own hands, even if none of these will ever become official. But anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already to see more of my Eeveelution designs. Take care and farewell.